welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and we will discuss about very important topic: intelligent app. We have our world famous speaker, Professor David Smith and Professor Ching. First, I want to give chance Professor Smith.
Well, Sharif, thank you so much. This is a dramatically changing marketplace for intelligence apps because what's happening is the mobile device has really helped redefine what an intelligence app is. And if I go back and look in 2020, the market size for intelligence apps then was about $8 billion. Last year, that increased by over a couple of $1 billion. And it has a compound annual growth rate going forward of about 33%. So it's a very decent compound growth area. Um, and as you begin to look what a smart app is, it's an application that uses real-time data uh, based also looking at historical data to adapt and change without you as the user having to make all of the interactions with it. Uh, and it's particularly important today as you begin to see the Internet of Things, as you begin to see really very advanced artificial intelligence that is beginning to be able to make more decisions versus just suggestions. And you're beginning to see not the growth of just big data, but distributed, very large data that can be used in this, and particularly data that's in a hybrid environment, where an intelligent app can look at your own personal private information and combine that with information from around the internet and other places has access together. So, what are the real important features you have of smart apps? And some of them is they're data driven. They combine and process these multiple data sources and user interaction, and they receive an enormous quantity of numbers, and they take that and they try to turn that into actionable insights, not just suggestions, but actionable insights for you. They really One of the next really important features for it is it's contextual and relevant, in that it, because of its intelligence, if you were looking today, for example, what the market size of intelligence apps are, it would ignore stuff that was back from the mid uh, 2010, because that's not applicable today. It would begin to look at it. And so one of the key features under the contextual and relevant is that it delivers proactively highly relevant information and suggestions. And you no longer have to drive that. The app will drive it. It's continuously adapting. So because of the machine learning, because of the natural language processing and other lexicons and things, they're constantly adapting and improving their output. So they are not just intelligent, but they're also self-learning. Again, they're action-oriented, and they tend to be what is called omni-channel. And so the category they fall under most often is something called PWAs, which are progressive web applications. And they are blurring the line between what is an app and what is a web application. And the growth of these intelligent apps are one of the very important features that is beginning to blur that line between the two. So high level, kind of market size, this is what it is, the major characteristics. So that's kind of a way to get started.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Ching, how you want to add some information about intelligent app and how our youth community they can develop their skills to develop this kind of app.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, you want me to be here, so I'm here. Okay. Basically, follow your instruction. But as you
Okay.
people know, that the way I'm the founder of Pole Science, I've been rather modest. I'm not trying to tell the world that I know more than almost anybody. Also, I'm very old. David is still young, compared to me. Okay. So I really, I have many friends in in big data. Okay, I have many friends. I actually have some companies relate to me in artificial intelligence. Okay, so these people they're going in one direction, and I I cannot pull them back. Okay, we're basically against this big data movement. Okay, because this big data, you see all this everything in knowledge they go after science. They follow science. They want to turn economy into science. They want to turn life science into science. We disagree with that. We think social science, life science are different. So this collection of data is really the continuation of the process of science. So they have lots of scientific data, lots of data. Okay, I can tell you, no matter how much data you collect on price, you can never predict price because price is a variant data. It changes all the time based on future expectation. It does not depend on the past. Okay, I cannot stress this enough. Okay, I have this problem solved in 1972. Okay, now it's 50 years. You see, what's going on, and nobody can really see this. Okay, the decision you make today depend on the future, not the past. Okay, all this data, past data, but past data are useful as inputs to this price determination, as inputs. Both in social science and life science, they all used as inputs. They cannot be used as an output for time, for variant output. So, and I think the world is turning around. Okay, I think the whole world is gradually moving toward us and moving sort of start to realize the problem with this all this data, and they have no idea what this data can do. Okay, we are just as pole science, founder pole, I would say this data cannot help but make decisions in social science, not decision, not the final outcome in life science. I can tell you this. Okay, we are absolutely sure of this. Okay, and I have some people, maybe three people who can really understand this. Myself and Kenneth Arrow, Gerald de Boer. Okay, Kenneth Arrow, Gerald de Boer. Kenneth Arrow got Nobel Prize in 1972, Gerald de Boer in 1983. But they are both ignored by the society. But they did not solve any problem. And I solved the problem of valuation. Okay, I predict the saving loan crisis, predict the subprime book. So we have evidence that this data collection is just part of the science, age of science. And today, the Nobel Prize given to two people, they are all data collectors. Okay, the society seems to think keep collecting data, you can predict price, you can predict crisis, financial crisis. I don't think we can solve financial crisis. We cannot solve environmental crisis. We cannot solve health crisis. Human being today cannot solve anything because science is value absent. It does not determine value. It just keep collecting data. Okay. For science, it's very lucky. The data they collect, a very small set can tell the speed of light. Okay. But in social and life science, we're dealing with totally different subject. So all this app, intelligent, this artificial intelligence, okay, but artificial intelligence uses partially automated software. Again, there's a big mess, okay. All this partially automated software has to be updated manually by people in the future, okay. It's an infinite cost. We have to have a foundation, complete automated foundation for computer science. Then from that, we build up our neural network. You see, now where the world is just building more and more data, it's moving into complexity crisis. But anyway, people do this, we continue to do this. Okay, let's wait and see. Okay, right now we had a health crisis, which life science couldn't solve. Financial crisis, nobody has ever solved any financial crisis except us. We did not solve it. They only listen halfway to what we have to say. Okay, and no crisis, when environment crisis, there's no crisis will be solved. Okay, that's my prediction by the data collecting. Okay, but I'm not against data collecting. I say collecting data and intelligently analyze them will produce inputs for our outputs in pole science. Okay, so basically, I'm sort of, stand on the opposite side of what the current trends going. I think if Marshall or David they seem to see this, they can comment, whether I'm right or the society is right. Okay, the establishment versus pole science. Okay, so that's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. What you want to add for today's discussion?
Well, today's discussion is about intelligent apps. Am I correct? And
Yes.
and if I hear what Hugh is talking about, I understand his position. It's interesting. I was just listening to a BBC broadcast yesterday on an intelligent app that is being used for facial recognition, and it's used to identify dead Russian soldiers in the Ukraine. And the people that create the app gave it to the Ukrainians, not to the Russians. Um, there's a lot of ethical questions with regard to that type of thing. Obviously, a dead person doesn't give their permission to be viewed. So how do you deal with that? So I think there are ethical questions for intelligence app data and usage. And I think there needs to be a set of rules for that type of thing going on there. There's a classic example of an intelligent app. Um, in my opinion, I think there's got to be as we move forward with this technology is going to be developed whether we like it or not. People are doing it. The question is, how does it get regulated and how is it used, and to whose benefit is it? It can be used obviously for the benefit of good things, and it can obviously be used for the benefit of not so good things. So if you're talking about manufacturing technology or you're talking about service providers and business, intelligent apps can do a world of good. But I think as we see the proliferation of these intelligent apps, there's a misuse of them a lot. I just saw that the other day there was an intelligent app used for real estate, and I talked to a real estate broker here in the United States, and he said the amount of fraudulent real estate transactions has gone up exponentially because of this technology. And it just needs to be regulated, and people need to understand how to use it and to their best ability. A lot of people just use it like, they got used to Facebook, so they use it. But I think it's a question of, to me, it's more of a question of understanding how to regulate it, and regulation is always behind the curve in development of technology, as we know. So that's my 2 cents on it, Sharif.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Volta, can you hear me? Raikon?
Hey,
Yes, how are you? We are discussing on intelligent app. So can you add some views about intelligent app?
um, so I think that AI is going to AI is a growing field, and I think that AI is going to have an important role in robotics in the near future, and I think that's a major industry that's going to be growing soon.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, okay. Thank you. Professor David Smith, I believe that this intelligent app more relevant with artificial intelligence and machine learning, or how does it work? How the different corporation they develop these softwares and for what industries?
Great question, because there's a lot of different ways to develop intelligent apps. Um, One of the intelligence apps that we deal with fairly often would be, for example, Amazon Alexa or Google Home or Siri. Those are self-adaptive, self-learning applications that will respond to your questions They will go out and search information. They will learn your routines and things. So they respond to you. And they are really pretty good examples of it. Some of the other intelligence apps are now ones that can read gestures, motions, they can read biometrics, and they can use all these different types of data. I agree with Hugh that we need to look and use the appropriate data to make the appropriate type of decisions. But what's even more important than the appropriate type of data is the frameworks and methodologies that are used with them and how you give each one of them weight. Uh, Going back a little bit more into some of the areas of use, intelligence apps are really beginning to enter education now. So in past sessions, you've heard me talk about one of our products called Universal Tutor, which is a 3D avatar driven program to teach social emotional learning. Well, it is self learning. So, for example, it asks the students, "What are your moods today?" Then it will adapt itself based on the moods. It does psychometric testing at various steps. And based on the psychometric answers, it will adapt. Even we know that whether you ate breakfast or lunch affects how you learn. So it will go and ask questions like that. Did you have breakfast? And it will begin to look at how to teach you social emotion learning based on these adaptive features which are in it, particularly in areas like education, in healthcare, in fintech, uh, and even beginning to go into the energy sector, human resources, media, manufacturing. We're beginning to see these type of adaptive, intelligent apps used in all the places like that. If you think about if you're in an advanced car with an advanced mobile transportation system, it will begin to learn from where you travel. You know, if in my car I begin to go down this one route, it will ask me, "Are you going to the airport?" And probably about 70% of the time it's correct. And see, that is another intelligence app that is using your real-time information. It's using the GIS systems. It's going back and doing pattern matching using the tools like it. So if I were to look at your students, Sharif, and look at your startup companies and your entrepreneurs, it's all those things. You need to understand artificial intelligence, machine learning in particular. It's good to understand image recognition. Again, all types of image recognition. It's good to be able to go and have a social science view, a part of it, which is I think is part of what Hugh was saying too, in that most intelligence acts are responding to things that you as a human's doing. To be able to understand that and anticipate it and begin to be able to serve up relative information to help you make knowledgeable decisions. Um, and others, I mean, it's like one of my favorite things to do with my, I will admit, I'm an Amazon Alexa person, and when it sees I'm going to bed, it says, "Are you going to bed? Do you want me to play your session at night?" Which will turn off lights in the house. It will play BBC News, ABC News, and read my calendar for the next day and give me the weather for the next day, all based on it understanding my behavior. And that's where intelligence apps can excel. So if you think of it, it might be I'm going grocery shopping and it realizes I'm going grocery shopping. And it can begin to look, did I look up recipes during the week? Did I do other stuff like that? Ask me if I want to do it. If I am going to the pharmacy, Alexa asks me all the time because I order a lot of my non prescription medicines off of Amazon. It's time for you to reorder this one based on your usage period. A great example again of an intelligent app to begin to help you do things in a more efficient, more effective manner. And it works socially, but it also works in business. As you begin to look things, if I'm an HR department and I'm beginning to onboard new employees, Sharif, I might want to develop an application that gives me a different onboarding process for an engineer versus a manager versus an analyst versus a manufacturing tech and whatever, but the apps can begin to adapt and serve you the information things based on the role you're taking there. So those are just some more examples. But if I'm doing education, I need a broad education, particularly, like I said, in different flavors of artificial intelligence, different flavors of recognition, and then a deep data access requirement. I hate the term big data, but this is large data that is relevant to what you're doing, and it helps decide that, and it discards information that is not. So it makes it easier for you to manage it that way. Uh, and it is an area ripe for entrepreneurship. And you, I can see different intelligence apps being brought to market for developing nations versus developed nations. Just like we're using intelligence apps as part of our universal tutor to teach education in explicitly social emotional learning, the same thing can be done to teach other skills too, particularly in developing nations, where you're wanting to be more adapted to your local customs, your local culture, the way the manufacturing is done different there with different logistics and everything than it would be for me in Austin or here in Miami. So, Sharif, I hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. Dr. Ching, if you share some of your industrial experience with our audience, specifically on machine learning, how does it work? How like it can be helpful for industry in Asia?
Yeah, okay. Let me just answer your question. You see, the machine learning, there's a big development in neural network. That intelligent part is extremely important. I admit that. You see, that is very important. But still, it's based on partially automated software. So we're going to have a software crisis. We're going to have a complexity crisis. Nobody's going to maintain those software. You see, my friend, this guy is the father of what the internet. Okay, Vint Cerf. He's talking about dark age. Okay, the digital dark age. Actually, it's much worse than that. It's the complexity crisis. So my experience is, we are in the forefront of all these problems. We are not really in the forefront of making money. Okay, now people, this is money oriented society. Everybody go make money. Okay, we still the knowledge people. So the industrial experience is that people, because of they want to make money, they only go for short term monetary returns. They don't go for long term and non monetary social returns. So from the industrial point of view, there is a big, you know, change coming. Okay, let me tell you this: you cannot continue. The world keep continue go for money. Okay, today United States has 1% of the people own 50% of the wealth. During the Great Depression, it's only 36% of the wealth. Okay, the big depression is the depression. If it comes, it's going to be horrendous. You see, greater depression. It's not the Great Depression. It's greater depression. But anyway, the world cannot solve any of its crises. Okay, so basically, after answer your question, let me say something for myself on my own terms. Okay, not to follow the direction you try to guide people. Okay, let me bring our audience to the current affair. Okay, the current affair is the war in between Russia and Ukraine. The war information will change the world from now on. Okay, this could be one of the last military conflict. Okay, in the future, it will all go to the modern conflict, which is trade war. Okay, trade wars will replace all the military wars because it's apparent that the United States can use some other people to use the military equipment from the United States to beat anybody in the world, including Russia. Okay, so basically we're going into peace. Okay, no, we're going into Milton Friedman's dream of money-oriented society, where the only type of war should be fought are trade wars. Okay, so this is a big thing, the current affair. Okay, it has to do with information. Okay, all this information you want to talk about intelligent application. Okay, information all over. Okay, now everybody, intelligent people, all know the Russian has 19th century mentality. They want to fight military war. They use equipment which are really old, nothing like what U.S. has. Okay, so China is not going to depend on Russia now. They're going to listen to U.S. So there's no threat anymore. Okay, military threat is being crashed down. Okay, another two point I want to make is like our friend Rykon mentioned, robotics will be the most important project mankind can do in the near future. Okay, this we agree. What robotic? You see, the robotic revolution was started by Japanese sixth generation computer science, which is robotics, because Japanese failed in the fifth generation in artificial intelligence, so they did not want to announce their sixth generation. So nobody really knows that the sixth generation was robotics, but they failed because robot cannot touch. Okay, 300 years ago, Isaac Newton, Robert Hooke, Henry Hertz, they couldn't figure out how to make contact. Okay, and myself, Dai Wu, and me, we solved the problem of not bouncing. But that is just the beginning of the problem. Okay, what is more difficult is the sensors. Okay, in order not to bounce off, this physics part of not bouncing off by jump pulse, you apply jump pulse, the sudden change of force is just 10% of the problem. The other 90% is really we're talking about intelligent information, how to retrieve instantaneous intelligent information. In other words, those people who are building driverless cars, they are trying to imitate human eyes. Okay, and to do that is so difficult. You can no longer count on things being very exact, precise. You cannot count on things being logical. You have to use fuzzy logic. You have to exploit the range of tolerance. Okay, you have an inverted pendulum. You have to wait until the pendulum just about to fall to the ground. You move. Okay, you cannot, with one inverted pendulum, it's very easy to balance. But if we give you 4, you see, then you got to exploit the range of tolerance of fuzzy logic. Okay, so there's two problems that most difficult, most important. The first one is robotics. The second is fuzzy logic. Okay, human being can no longer try to solve all the problem with precision or with rigor. Okay, they need to take whatever they can get. They no longer have the luxury of precision or rigor. So what fuzzy logic will be the most advanced knowledge leading us to solve the most intelligent, most important crisis. The most important crisis is the survival crisis. Okay, how to survive in this universe permanently. Okay, in order to solve this kind of problem, this problem are open-ended. So you can no longer afford to have the luxury of precision or rigor. Okay, so that's why I say the problem we can handle right now is the robot touch problem. We can make robot touch. So when eventually they find out cars do not need to bounce, and also when two cars collide, they can absorb all the shock. Just like today Mercedes-Benz, when they collide, the engine fall down, so they absorb the shock. Okay, even in a head-on collision, it's 40, 50 miles below. They will not be fatal. Okay, so eventually we can have some kind of bumper, which can absorb all the most of the collision, so we can practically eliminate all the fatal collision with this solution of touch. Okay, but that is just 10% of the total problem of robot. Okay, the other problem is what we're talking about, artificial intelligence. How to how you how do you use how to create the human eyes, human brain? Okay, human being, they try to do it. There are people who know the driverless car industry, and they say this will take a many decades. Okay, it's not a few years. Okay, they keep want to do it, but you need to have a human eye. You have to have some kind of human brain in order to see as clearly as human. Okay, the road today, the car today, are built for humans. Okay, they might have to start to build the road and the car for for machines, which has artificial intelligence. So the roads are going to build much more costly than what we have today. Human beings very is the most intelligent robot. Therefore, they can handle this roads not built perfectly. Okay, so basically the current affair is very good for us because there's eventually people will realize knowledge is everything. Okay, United States should be the leader in knowledge, period. And nobody really realized it until this war. Okay, nothing. The society advances by competition. Okay, no competition more useful than military competition. And now, just with this one small war, people start to realize, they need to pay attention to knowledge, not just money. Okay, money-wise, we're heading into a big financial crisis, which I'm sure nobody can solve. Okay, everybody claims they can do it. I will challenge somebody to give me an answer. We had the answer, and we give to Benaki, and he only used half of it. Half of it, the easy half is quantitative easing. The other half, we told him you need to go invest money, put money into project with high rate of return to balance the low rate of return from quantitative easing. And that they cannot calculate rate of return, so did not use the other half. So now with this war and all the crises coming to us, and also the health crisis being behind us pretty much. Okay, now we have this environmental crisis is also ongoing. The financial crisis is coming very soon. And all this information is not going to do anything. Okay, I predict this right here for you guys. I know they got lots of information, they got lots of data, but what they want to do is what is the correct price. The price depends on future data. The future data can be compared to the past if it's approximate time invariant, but not the final data. Okay, they don't have the final data for life science. They don't have final data for social science, so no crisis can be solved. So basically, I just make a prediction here. I'm quite confident the world is very quickly moving toward that because of this war, which is very helpful for knowledge, and it could be the last time we afford to have this type of war because mankind already exhausts its range of tolerance in fighting wars. Okay, we got too many nuclear, all these weapons. You see, we can no longer afford to fight. The range limit of fighting a war has been reached. We are able to destroy ourselves 10 times over. So a good thing is this final war, I hope it will just settle everything. Nobody will fight any more military war. They will all start to look into into trade wars, and the trade wars, both sides against even trade wars. We think we should all devote time to knowledge. You see, not just try to make other people poor. So basically, we are here in the U.S. Okay, David is in a very sunshine part of the U.S. I'm here in my table tennis room. Behind me is the table tennis table. Okay, I play practice and show people table tennis. So I'm here in the table tennis. See, here in the U.S., we are very lucky. Also, Marshall is probably here too. We are very good. In other places around the world, okay, Sheriff, in your area, you see, your people going to suffer much more than people in the U.S. U.S. is not getting very well. Okay, now there's lots of homeless. Homeless is growing at the faster rate. Okay, but we are still okay. U.S. still okay. In San Francisco, we can only go to the most richest area or downtown San Francisco, where there's lots of more policemen than homeless. Okay, this United States is not getting well. Okay, but the United States will beg as our neighbor. They will take everything from other people and bring it back to the U.S. Okay, especially Trump. You want America first. America is already first. Okay, other people like Ukraine, it's a hell. Okay, hell on earth. Okay, they're dying. You see, other places are not doing well. Europe is not doing well because Europe, don't have the energy. Okay, so the energy is a big problem for Europe. So the world is going to change into the way I would say it's going on a regular course. In other words, the United States is the new world today. New world. Every time major change happens, it happens in the new world. Other people cling to their old culture, they will never change. Only when you go to a new place, then you will change. So United States is the new world. The new world now will exert its power, show the world that all the top people, most intelligent people will come to this new world. Okay, like you, Sheriff, you should, you have all these friends here. David, okay, in Miami, take you to Miami. You come to San Francisco, I take you to nightclubs, So we are. This is the place. Eventually, intelligent people will come over. It will be brain drain. Start really in earnest. Okay, it's going to happen. Okay, so United States going to gain a lot of things. Okay, from after this war. Okay, it shows its military power. So the people will come over. Other places will going down and down and down. Okay, so this will get into a situation that the history dictates. Okay, history dictates this. Okay, now both sides looking for the next new world. That's why I keep asking you that you should teach the third world, the people, your audience, about the next new world, not this world. Okay, we already see this world. America is not, the culture in America, freedom, democracy is not correct. Okay, the world is not free. Okay, there's a supply and demand. Invisible hand regulate us. So cannot think that it is free. My friend Milton Friedman, he thinks the world is free, but it's all regulated. So we need to have knowledge of how we are regulated in our behavior, in our investment behavior, in order to solve the financial crisis. So basically, I'm just just thinking that things are becoming better in terms of knowledge, but otherwise it's just crisis is ahead of us, which no one can solve. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. What interesting thing you want to add for today's discussion?
Well, it's interesting, Hugh's perspective, but I want to follow up on what David was talking about. Since this conversation is about intelligent apps, and David gave some examples, I'd like to add some very common examples that many people out there use, whether they're in the United States or anywhere else in the world. A lot of them use them. There's an app called Waze, Waze, and it's a very intelligent app. It's much better than the Google Maps app. It's a mapping app that allows you to find your way from one location to the next, even if it's a location that you drive frequently. If you put it in, it tells you if there's a police officer along the way, but it's crowdsourced. So a lot of these intelligent apps allow for crowdsourcing. Another app that I find very frustrating to use is an app that's known as a smart key. In other words, if you're on an iPhone, I can't speak for other smartphones, but on an iPhone, if I'm typing something in a text message, let's say I'm typing to David or Sharif or to Hugh, and I send a text message, it sometimes corrects my typing automatically. It thinks, oh, I'm going to improve this typing, but actually I don't want it to do that. So it can be quite frustrating. So those are two examples of some intelligent apps, one that I find very useful, and the other one I find quite interfering with my abilities to communicate with others. So I think those are constant. There are many other apps that are being developed. There's one called Hound. It's a perfect example of how artificial intelligence in a mobile app can simplify your life, supposedly, according to Hound. The app seizes voice commands to execute different actions, such as getting familiar with the best hotel or the best restaurant, and kind of finding out where you want to go to eat, or if I'm traveling on a flight, which flight is the best flight, and I don't have to type it anymore. Maybe that's better than the smart key uh, to be able to find the kind of flight that I need. But these are some of the examples of the apps that are being developed in the practical here and now. Whether they affect the economy one way or the other, I'll leave that to David and Hugh. But practically speaking, these are apps that people are using in the here and now every day, and there's literally thousands of them out there. So some of them I find useful, and some of them I find frustrating. So I'm sure that many of our audience will feel the same way that are out there. But I noticed one thing: my grandson, who's 10 years old, tells my son, who's a banker, by the way, he says to him, Dad, you don't know how to use these apps. He shows him how to use them. So, and then he shows them how to use a smart app. And he's starting to show me how to use smart apps. So I think the next generation is already adopting this technology at younger and younger levels. And I think that's another important point about the smart apps. These smart apps have capabilities that affect different generations of people and how they're using them. I'm an old guy. I'm 140 years old, so I'm so old that I remember Wells Fargo stagecoaches. So most people here don't. But so I'm just saying, I think that as the younger generation gets on, and I have some grandsons that are much younger, like 2 or 3 years old, they're already using apps. They're using smart apps, and they're being accommodated by them. So I think it's very interesting to see how different generations and different people, even between my 10-year-old grandson and my 2-year-old and 3-year-old grandchildren, are adopting these technologies because they get on smartphones, they get on tablets, and they use it. So I think that's another part of the conversation about smart apps. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I want to go for the concluding remark, but there are some questions. So our speakers, you can respond on the questions. Virginia, she said, "Good morning, everyone from Brazil." Alea, she want to know how is machine learning related to AI. I think already our speakers give some answer on that. Professor David Smith.
Well, we're Virginia Obrigado. Great having you on the sessions. And, we've talked about how AI is a very, very important part of intelligence apps, but it goes beyond that. You need to curate the data. You need to be able to do the image recognition for those types. And you need to be able to look at what's called a natural interface for many of them. So, one of the places where I love hate the smart app with the bot is when I call American Airlines. You never get to speak to a person. So you're dealing with a smart app that is relating to you. And it's getting so much better. I was able to change my flight tomorrow all in a smart app. and it recognized me as being an executive platinum flyer and all that, and handled the things without me having to tell it, no, don't charge me for that. No, don't do other things like that, because it was intelligent enough to recognize me, know my preferences, know the things, and automatically put me on different lists and things that I used to have to do manually. So great time savings here. I mentioned healthcare is one of the areas that we're seeing more and more intelligence apps. In our Biodat AI product, we have something called an action plan manager that will go through thousands of patient records, and it will look at those who, for example, haven't had breast cancer screening or haven't gone and kept their medications in check and things, and automatically put a plan together to have a nurse or a physician assistant or the doctor reach out to them, schedule the activities to close those gaps. And that's all done as an intelligent app that multiplies the workforce, that makes medicine more personalized to you because it's using the data and intelligently looking at you and making recommendations back to you. Robotics, like was said earlier, robotics are going to live by smart apps. They're going to live by autonomous apps in the future. And you're seeing that. The autonomous car is all about multiple smart apps coming together, intelligence apps to make it happen. And I loved Marshall's example of Waze. My preference is Waze too, even though Waze is owned by Google. And so Google has both Google Maps and Waze tied together. It's kind of like you go to Microsoft and Skype and Microsoft Teams both do video conferencing, but very different approaches. So you see things like that, even within a large enterprise company like that with their products, where you're looking at different ways to use them. If I'm going on a trip, uh, in my car, I use three different GPS systems. If I'm going on a really short one that I do often and just need updates, I'll use Google Maps. If I'm doing larger on the highway, traveling between Austin to Dallas or like that, I definitely use Waze because I want to see what's around me. I want to see traffic slowing down. I want to see accidents. Yes, I do want to see where the police are so that I can slow down 20 miles an hour to be in the speed limit. But you begin to use them based on what is important to you. There's a term we've talked about in the past called a care about. Intelligent apps are built to exploit the data, the group intelligence, and others to address the needs that you as the user care about. And that's one of the important things here. And as I'm looking at governments, particularly governments in the developing world, they're going to begin to use more and more intelligent apps because they can do the work of many people and provide some better services to the citizens. You're going to see intelligent apps grow up in a lot of the areas in particularly developing nations because of how the impact is of being able to rapidly go out and pull data that's applicable and use it. And again, it's a wonderful application for entrepreneurship, but it's one that as I'm studying in the universities and colleges there, I need to look at a broader type of technology background, a social science background, an engineering background, all coming together to make these work. Because I agree with you, it's not just the technology answer. You have to take that and pull that into where knowledge, wisdom, and action happen. And intelligence apps go up the chain to give you knowledge, but you still have to apply wisdom, and you still have to take that wisdom and apply action. And that's my conclusion, one of the most important things to consider as you look at intelligent applications.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Ching, what's your concluding remarks for today's session?
Okay. Yeah, let's answer the question. How is the machine learning related to AI? Okay. First, AI was started by Larry Minsky. Okay, Minsky at MIT. And they use expert system. Okay, it failed completely. Okay, nobody just it's just software, expert system, nothing more. Okay, so basically it was nothing. Okay, then Google has this you know competition versus Go masters. Okay, this is very simple. Okay, what really amount to is we use machine intelligence before. Okay, little bit machine calculation. It's not just not intelligent, just calculating faster calculation. So calculate faster. Okay, that was the old AI. The new AI start to build the eyes. Okay, once you have perception, once you have the old AI is analysis. The new AI is perception. Once you give perception to machine, okay, then now you have machine learning. Okay, you can see a go board. Okay, you can recall all the championship matches. Okay, then when you see the other guy had this move, then immediately you can find out on a go board in the past of a master's move. Okay, then you just, in other words, when the world master, world champion versus the IBM Blue, whatever, Alpha Go. Okay, this Google stuff. You see, you're playing chess against 100,000 masters. Okay, therefore the winning chance is much slower. Okay, the new AI is machine learning. It's actually introduced perception. The neural network was invented by some people, and for 15 years it was ignored. Okay, now with this Google, playing chess, and also Google used it to identify protein, AlphaFold. Okay, all these are very good. Okay, so in other words, this perception is become very, very useful. You need to use neural network. Paul Science is suggesting that the neural network shall be built by self-generating neural network of software cells. So you do not try to manually put in the nodes. You have the machine build the neural net for you. But this is so difficult to think. I sort of quit my work in computer science because I couldn't think how to construct this self-generating neural network. So basically, machine learning is based on perception. Okay, so another we move the machine up from analysis to perception. Okay, so let me give you something. People, is it give some advice to the young people or young families. Okay, like you, Sheriff. Okay, so people want to immigrate now. Where should they go? Let me give you some ideas. And I give the audience the places to go in the future. The country which will be well off are U.S. and China. Okay, United States and China will be well off. Okay, because China will be the worker. Okay, U.S. will be the capitalist. Okay, the money guy. Okay, so U.S. will be rich. China will be the worker and will make money. So this is servant and the master. They will all make money. Okay, these two countries are quite good. Other nations will deteriorate, going down. And the southern hemisphere will provide the next new world. Okay, if you check into all these new ideas, they sort of like coming out from Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, even Brazil. Brazil and Canada too close to the U.S. and Mexico. Brazil, Canada too close to the U.S. So the brain drain is so fast, so immediate. So these nations have difficulty to rise up because the best people they have immediately been drawn into U.S. Okay, people from Europe, they still cling to their scientific culture, which in my opinion, my personal opinion, is scientific culture should be over. It shouldn't continue because it cannot make decisions. So basically, the next new world will be will be in the southern hemisphere. So I hope all the people of knowledge will devote some time to help to create this new world. With knowledge, with pole science instead of science. Okay, the U.S. and China, all, and the Europe especially, they all burdened down by science, in my opinion. So
Thank
that's
you.
basically my
Thank you.
conclusion.
Mr. Marshall, what's your concluding remarks for today?
So I kind of want to take focus on what David and I were talking about. He mentioned some of the attributes of intelligent apps. I would say that I would like to focus not on the negative, like I did before, about that it frustrates me when I'm doing typing and it takes over my typing for me. But I think I want to talk about the attributes that are beneficial in intelligent apps for most people, not everybody. But and there's about 6 major benefits. One of them is it's action oriented. I think that's self-describing. Number 2, it's data driven, so it's using a lot of data, and as we gather more data, it can intelligently take that data and use it, supposedly, not always, but hopefully. It's contextual, meaning that it looks at users' behaviors, and David brought up examples of that, especially in the healthcare. That's really important in healthcare. If patients are not taking their medicines appropriately and they can track that, then nurses, doctors, assistants, physician assistants, and physicians themselves can actually help the patient stay on track and keep them healthier and lower the cost towards society. Another example is that another benefit or attribute is that it's adaptive, meaning that, and somebody asked this question, it's machine learning algorithms that allow this to be adaptive. These apps are adaptive in the sense that they're effortlessly promoting their knowledge as per their surroundings, meaning as it adapts to a condition. So, example, going back to David's healthcare situation, it adapts to the status of a particular patient in a particular condition, and the next patient that it looks at, it'll adapt to that patient's needs. Another benefit is the exclusion of keyboard inputs, which I'm starting to begin to take advantage of. An example of that, we talked about the smart key. It frustrates me, but now we're being able to use voice commands, and they're getting better. I didn't like the voice commands myself because I didn't trust them, but as I use them, I see that they're better and better. Of course, my American accent might be stultifying and causing some problems, but can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. So, and the last thing is that it's omnichannel. So, omnichannel means that it's transmitting experience, and these applications understand that users are familiar with the experience. So, like my grandchildren, as they get more familiar with them, it adapts to their needs. So, it's omnichannel. So that's what my contributions are to this whole component. Thank you very much for having me on
Thank
this.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. This is really great discussion. Thank you, all of the speaker for joining today's sessions, and thank you all of our audience, those who joined for today's sessions. Thank you, Mr. Ching, for joining. Thank you. Bye bye, and take care.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, call me anytime.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.